Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. George Orwell said, "Early in life I noticed that no event is ever correctly reported in a newspaper." In 1988, the United Nations predicted that the Maldives would be completely underwater in 30 years. That would have been by the year 2018. And to dramatize their situation, the Maldives cabinet held an underwater meeting in 2009. But the Maldives are still there and they're doing just fine. Never mind their past failures, though. Climate alarmists never changed their story. They just changed the date. In 2018, The Guardian wrote, "Coral reefs will be overwhelmed by rising oceans. Study finds fragile marine ecosystems cannot grow fast enough to keep pace with sea levels." According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, sea level is rising 1.7 to 1.8 millimeters per year. The Guardian is making a rather remarkable claim that corals can't grow 1.8 millimeters per year. It makes me wonder if their staff ever completed primary school mathematics. Reality is that over the past 6 decades, coral islands like the Maldives have grown as much as 8% in size. Over the past 20,000 years, sea level has risen 120 meters or 400 feet. And for most of that time, sea level was rising much faster than it is now, yet the coral reefs are still there. When sea level is rising, coral reefs grow upwards, and when sea level is falling, coral reefs expand in area. Corals like to grow just below the surface of the water, and wherever that water surface is, that's where the coral is going to grow. The Guadalupe Mountains in West Texas are an ancient coral reef which is thousands of feet thick and very wide. This reef grew over millions of years of rising and falling sea levels. Coral reefs don't drown. That's one superstition by climate alarmists. Another superstition is that higher levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and higher temperatures will kill off the coral reefs. But corals appeared in the ocean 540 million years ago when carbon dioxide levels and temperatures were right at their peak, much higher than now. The biggest explosion of sea life on Earth occurred when carbon dioxide levels were 15 times higher than they are now, and Earth's temperature was 15 degrees Celsius warmer. The idea that high levels of carbon dioxide are bad for life has no basis in the historical record. NASA says that Earth has gotten much greener over the past few decades due to the increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. They call this carbon dioxide fertilization. In 1920, Scientific American wrote an article describing fertilizing the air with carbon dioxide to promote plant growth. That was back in the days when Scientific American still reported on science rather than just propaganda. Coral reefs aren't being overwhelmed by rising oceans, but the public is being overwhelmed by fake news from papers like The Guardian. I could write an entire book on Guardian junk climate science. But they have no interest in setting the record straight. They say, "Climate change is real. We must not offer credibility to those who deny it." Rather than just admitting that they don't know what they're talking about, The Guardian takes the approach of describing anyone who disagrees with them as being evil and funded by fossil fuel companies. In this 2018 article, they showed a picture of what corn looks like in the autumn. And the caption read, "A dry cornfield in Germany where harvests have suffered as a result of this year's extreme drought." But according to Oxford University, corn yields in Europe were at a record high in 2018. The Guardian loves to use pictures of autumn crops, like in this article from 2012 where they said, "Drought may be the new norm for the United Kingdom," says Environment Secretary. So according to The Guardian, the United Kingdom has been in permanent drought for the past 10 years. I'm guessing that Guardian writers don't spend a lot of time out on farms and mostly live in their virtual world in the cities. So we might ask, who is paying The Guardian to write all of this fake news? And not surprisingly, the answer is Bill Gates, who's given them $13 million. The only other fake news organization they've given more money to is National Public Radio, whom they've given almost $25 million. Note too that the Gates Foundation has given almost $7 million to The Conversation. Like The Guardian, The Conversation has banned any meaningful discussion about climate. In our Orwellian world, the conversation has banned conversation. The picture is Australian Senator Malcolm Roberts, who's worked as hard as anybody to set the record straight about fake news from the press. Bill Gates apparently does not want people spreading factual information about climate. And then there's the Washington Post, which said in 2008 that the world will end in 12 years. The New York Times says it's time to panic about carbon dioxide. But if these journalists understood anything about science or history, they would know that carbon dioxide is extremely good for life. In fact, without carbon dioxide, no life would exist. Once again, I have to wonder if these newspaper writers have completed primary school science. Toto has been pulling back the curtain on this scientific dark age for the past 14 years. You can visit him, Kyrie, Caesar, Toki, and Upla on the web at realclimatescience.com.